Kayak anglers of the internet, welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler podcast with me and my co-host Kurt Smith. What's up, dude?
Man, what's going on, brother?
None, man. Glad to be back. I've been out gallivanting the North Country and now back at the house, so things are good.
I'm jealous. I was seeing your pictures, man. That looked like a really cool trip.
Yeah, it was. It was great. I don't know what else do you say besides that. Taking the family out, see like North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. It's great. A lot of fun.
All American road trip.
That's right. The Griswolds getting out there in the country. Except we rented this big, nice new Ford Expedition because my mother-in-law and my kid was in there, so we wanted to have plenty of room. And I come back to my crappy truck. It's like, like that thing has like electronic steering and mine's like, hydraulic. And it's like, yeah, okay. I might need a new truck before too long. But besides that, it was great.
Now you're like 60 grand in the hole.
Yeah, it's funny. Speaking of that, I was driving by the Toyota lot today, picking up my kid, and they were like, I don't think they're selling them Tacomas like they thought they would. You charge $60,000 for a compact truck, and people are midsize or whatever it is, but people don't want to pay that.
Yeah, I think things are slowing down a little bit in that car market. It was out of control there for a while, man. I mean, stuff. I luckily didn't have to buy a car during that because I was looking at what was going on. I was like, oh my god, look at these prices, Yeah.
We got my wife's 4Runner, but we did okay on it. It wasn't too bad. So
yeah,
maybe we lucked out.
Yeah,
but yeah, dude. Tonight we got a good show. Last week we had Hoover on not too long ago, and then me and him went out night fishing the other night on Saturday, and I stayed up like 27 hours out fishing. But did really great. Had a good time, and but that guy, man, I haven't been night fishing. I used to go night fishing for crappie pretty regular, sockeye, whatever you call them, wherever you're at. But yeah, it got me thinking about night fishing because, like he said, out of all the 10 plus fish he's caught, more than half have been at night. So you got to figure he fishes a lot more during the day than at night, and so we're going
to have something to it in the summertime, man. There's something to it. Yeah,
for sure.
So let's bring these guys on, man. Let's dig into it.
Yeah, let's do it. So we got Kyle Strother, Jason Broach, and Ryan McCoy. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, appreciate y'all being on. First, we'll start with you, Kyle. Tell everybody who you are, man.
Yeah, so I'm Kyle Strother. I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia. Born and raised West Virginia fisherman. And I've been in kayak fishing for, I think it's been 10 years since I've got my field free kayak. And, I've fished ever since. I was born basically fishing out of farm ponds with my dad and all kinds of boats and beating the bank. But last 10 years, I've really dedicated to just kayak fishing. And the last about 4 years, I've been really focusing in on fishing kayak tournaments, either locally or nationally.
Cool. Ryan, how about you, man?
I'm Ryan McCoy. I kayak fished for a long time. Me and Kurt fished a bunch of tournaments together, went to a national championship together, and hung out in the hotel or the little lodge together. And I got out of it a few years ago. I still fish. I still kayak fish, but not really competitively anymore. But yeah, we're still fishing, and drag racing's getting a little out of crazy. So I'm slowly. Kurt's been seeing my posts. I'm slowly sinking back into the fishing hole.
Ryan's been drag racing, built a crazy drag racing car, man. Like big tires. I mean, like real deal.
What are you driving right now?
What am I driving?
Yeah, what kind of cars do you have? Is it
it's a Fox Body Mustang.
Okay, Fox Body. All right, my man. Thank you. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't hold not fishing tournaments against you. It's all right. It's pray for the best.
Hey, I still got all my stuff. I sold my Hobie though, and this car's about to go on down the road and get back in the ring, I guess.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Well, we can get you, either me or Kurt, we can get you set up for sure. Jason, man, one of the best kayak anglers in the country, been doing it forever. If people don't know who you are, tell them who you are.
Jason Broach, Bluffton, South Carolina. Yeah, kayak fishing 2007, tournament fishing about 2010, and yeah, if I'm not fishing a tournament, anytime I'm fishing for fun, more than likely I'll be fishing during the dark. So nighttime fishing, definitely my preferred way of going about it.
And also one of the most underrated kayak fishing YouTube channels out there. I really like your YouTube channel.
I appreciate it. Trying to put a little bit more on it, but it's tough now with kids and what.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so I guess first I'll start out with the first question. Where are you going night fishing? It seems to me like night fishing, there's, a few more variables. Like it's hard to know where you're casting. Maybe like moving water could be more dangerous. Is there certain kinds of water that you're targeting whenever you're night fishing? Kyle, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you definitely want to be focused on your familiar bodies of water, the ones that in the daylight. You've been out, where all the stumps are that you might get hung up on. You don't want any kind of accidents when you're out there at night. So yeah, floating rivers. I'm sure some people do it, but I don't know that many rivers around here that I can safely do that without a buddy. So I definitely stick to the lakes and to smaller ponds.
Right.
Anything particular? Are you looking for like a shallow lake or a deep lake or a lake with riprap?
Just whatever suited my fancy that day, like how far I want to drive out. If I only have a few hours, I might just go half an hour to like a small shallow pond and just, fish around and find out. But sometimes I take that, hour and a half trip somewhere further if I'm feeling like I can get all night, I can come back at like 3 a.m. or something. I'll go and fish at a little bit deeper lake with some ledges on it.
Okay. And Ryan, you look crazy, man. Ain't no telling where you're fishing, right?
I am the guy he's talking about. I am the floating water, fast rivers, big smallmouth, bud. That's me. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and we got the Scioto River out here, and that's my place. Big rapids, and
It's
got a
moving
few
water
spots.
too.
Say that one more time.
It's moving water.
Oh yeah, it's moving water. Yeah, I don't get on like Griggs or anything. We're in the fast part of the small part of it. But yeah, like I've caught them, super shallow. I mean, I've had 20-inch plus smallmouth hit whopper ploppers off of rocks in midair. Like it's wild at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's wild.
So, are you looking for anything particular in the river? Like when you're coming into your night spots, are you looking for a shallow, a riffle leading into a hole, or is there anything in particular that you're looking for?
So like what I've kind of figured out, I don't night fish I still night fish a lot, but I used to do it like 6 times a week.
Yeah, I remember.
But what I had found and learned is that it honestly depends on where the moon is and how bright the moon is to where the fish are going to be. Like if the moon's like real super bright, like I'd find them like deeper, like, big pools, like 6, 7, 8 foot deep. And then if it's not, like I'll find them up shallow, up like up close against the bank. I mean, like up close against the bank. I mean, I'm talking inch and a half of water. Like their back's got to be sticking out the water, probably.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, like I literally just throw it on the bank, drag something. Like my favorite bait that I was throwing was a black and blue chatterbait with a Z-Man razor shad trailer. Dude, just destroys them. And it's always big ones, like I mean, you've seen some of my pictures. There's some big fish. I mean, for where I'm at, there's some big fish.
Yeah, they're big fish for anywhere, buddy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just be honest. It was shocking that they came from Ohio waters.
Yeah.
Jason, how about you? You've got all kind of water around you.
Yeah, kind of to echo what Kyle said, it's always good. It definitely don't ever just pick a random spot new to go to at night. Fish familiar waters, know your dangers. For me, I started mostly saltwater fishing at night back in grad school. So for me, it's kind of sure I knew that in case of saltwater conditions or even freshwater that have like tidal in areas, always go check it out on a low tide when you can see all the obstructions and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Know what's out there. Know the animal life that's out there. I'm not afraid of gators, but freshwater potentially down in Florida, you might run into a manatee. They're not fun to deal with. So know your animals that are out there.
Well, wait a minute. A manatee?
Yeah.
Like they're dangerous?
Dangerous just in terms of flipping you over and unexpectedly when you go over one.
They're not going to attack you though, right?
They're not going to attack you, but
Okay.
I had one come up right next to me on the St. John's out of nowhere, didn't see it, and did its blowhole. Dude, I swear I almost crapped myself. I mean, it was a big one too. I got a video of it. About scared the life out of me.
the only time I've ever fallen out of the kayak is because a manatee flipped me out of it. That was kind of a scary night. A good night. I know I caught fish that night. It was, yeah.
Did it just come up and like just raise itself up and push you over?
Yeah, you're pretty much talking about a cow just in two or just deciding I don't like what's on top of me, and it's But yeah, know what's out there. Know how many the popular area. Avoid major holidays. Don't get out there around July 4th, Memorial Day, all that stuff. I mean, you can pretty much fish wherever you do during the day, and kind of what Ryan was mentioning, like the pool areas. Anytime you're in the clear water habitat, you can see big fish during the day, and they won't eat. Go back at night. Got that stealth factor. You usually do a lot better fishing for those big fish.
What do you guys think the reason they're feeding at night?
Fishing pressure, I would say. First and foremost, I definitely think that, especially in West Virginia, our bodies of water are so small compared to the rest of the nation that you get and everyone likes to fish around here. We're all a bunch of country boys and girls that like to fish. So you go out in the middle of the summer, like, there's people beating the bank, there's people in their kayaks. This fish, they see a lot of people. So when you go out at night, they're a lot more likely to be feeding them because they know that the likelihood of being susceptible to a lot of predator is a lot lower. Especially in like some of the clear water lakes, we have snapping turtles and herons and ospreys, eagles that can eat them, when they're up shallower. But I feel like at night they're a little bit more comfortable getting up shallow and get into places that are a little bit more easier to find them and catch them.
Ryan, what about you? You think the same thing? You think it's fishing pressure, or?
I don't know, because I never really figured out why. Because where I fish it, there isn't really a lot of pressure. The only really difference is daylight and dark. But it's a huge difference. I don't really know why. I just figured it out, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it right here. I mean, you could literally wade the river all day from 6 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night, and it'd be, you might get one big one here and there, but it's like 12 to 16-inch fish all day long. You get out there, I'd get off work at 11:30, get on the water about midnight, and it was literally tank after tank after tank all the time. So I don't know why. And I was fishing, I fished the same bodies of water that I do in the daytime.
And you got to remember that that bass are, one of the top predators usually in their food chain. So, when you turn off the lights like that, I think that definitely puts the advantage in their court,
Yeah.
and they can feed a lot easier then.
Now that you say that, actually, I remember because I did do some research, and I remember reading an article that they actually are more active and aggressive like at nighttime. So that might have something to do with it, I guess.
Just something instinctual in them.
Yeah.
Jason, what about you? You got any theories on it?
Hey, you're a biologist, right?
Yeah, I mean they've hit the nail on the head that during the day there's pressure. They're able to see a lot better in terms of is your leader a little frayed? Is that fluorocarbon frayed? The not bad, or not the right color, blah blah blah, all those variables. And at nighttime, they're adapted to be able to see pretty well at night, but also they know, if that meal gets away, they might not get another chance to eat, and they're just like, Ryan was mentioning, they're just more aggressive at night. They're not hear it, see a flash, kind of see it. They're going to do what they do and go after it.
Willing to commit more to the chase and to attacking the baits.
Yeah.
It's like obvious, like how much aggressive. Like, I mean, I know Kurt's pretty. He's pretty local to me a little bit, but he's not much of a night fisherman, I don't think. But like top water bite in the day, like I'm typically a smallmouth guy, so they'll just boom, they'll just suck the hook down, and that's about it. You might get a little, on top of the water, but at night, man, these dudes are coming 6 foot out of the water, like with this thing in their mouth, like it's wild.
Now, largemouth do that too.
Yeah,
I've had some like just totally like Shamu straight
yeah,
out for a bait and just knock all kinds of slack in your line.
yeah.
Yeah, they'll wake you up. Just the way they thump the bait up. What you're using, like a worm, jig, chatterbait, like it feels like something hit your rod with a sledge. They don't play.
So, what are there certain kind of baits that you're using? Is it, I would imagine you'd like want to use louder things so they could find it. Is there certain colors that you're choosing? How do you choose what you're going through?
Yeah, this is a pretty common question. I see a lot posted online, and honestly, I think you can just use whatever you're confident in. You can pretty much use what you use during the day to night fish. I've caught them on, soft plastic flukes. My wife's caught them on Ned rigs in 20 feet of water. Um, but I typically, I'm more of a power fisherman than myself, so I tend to stick with that because I know that. And I'm confident in throwing spinner baits, swim jigs, chatter baits. So they probably are a little bit better at night than some baits. I'm not going to pick up the soft jerk bait or anything very often, but there are definitely times where it does work more than a chatter bait. Sometimes they will shy away from that extra thump, that extra flash of those blades. So yeah, I would say definitely whatever you feel the most confident in, and try to treat night fishing like you're day fishing. And the same goes with the sun and the moon. Like we can get into that conversation too with the different phases of the moon, but and the colors. The fish don't change. The fish don't change in the water. The crawdads, they don't change color at night. They're always the same color. So I tend to try to stay away from like those translucent colors. Like if you're throwing a crankbait, I wouldn't throw something that's clear. I would stick to a solid opaque color. Now I throw a lot of whites, I throw a lot of blacks, and that's really about it.
It's all dark colors for me. Blacks and blues, all blacks, buzz baits, like real loud, erratic stuff. Chatterbaits. Sometimes, some nights will be, you can tell they want it like slow, like an all black, like big Colorado blade spinner bait, just slow rolling it. And then other times, like I can slow roll a chatterbait, won't get bit like for hours, and then just burn it like as fast as you can burn it, and then it's just boom like a freight train. This all depends, and it doesn't really take long to figure out like which way they want. It's one or the other. Like they either want it real slow and subtle, or just like haywire.
Yeah, for me, it's pick something out of your tackle box and go with it. Confidence bait for sure. I don't think there's anything they eat at night. They're not going to eat it. And like Kyle said, the bait fish not changing colors, anything like that. So just go with what you know and just have fun with it. I will say, like, I love fishing at night, having it 2 hours away is nice. But summertime on Santee, you still have to drag a worm to get the big one, and I mean they don't play around. They'll eat it, get it close enough. Springtime, fall time though, switching the hard plastic crankbait, that sort of thing is kind of my go-tos.
I definitely feel like there's some times where you've gotta slow down. You gotta throw that bigger worm or a jig or a Senko. I find when like there's a lot of moonlight or it's real calm out. I feel like I gotta throw that jig instead of having the moving bait. Sometimes, kind of like Ryan was saying, like you can't get bit on that moving bait. You gotta if you speed it up, sometimes they won't even hit it then. But yeah, I definitely had success, throwing jigs or slowing down for bass. You don't, if you're comfortable throwing a jig or a big worm, if that's your thing, if you're not comfortable with throwing a big bait or big weight bait or anything like that, you can definitely get work done with the jig.
Is there like, do you guys feel like the timing of it? What's the timing of it? Is it something that happens? Let's say it gets dark at 9:30. Is it something that happens within the first hour, or does it take them a little bit of time to reset from daylight to nighttime?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I guess I would say once you can't see anymore, that's the best time. That's like an hour after the sun sets, in that twilight period. Like that very end of that twilight period is where I've gotten a lot of bites. And that extends, it could get extended for a couple hours. It varies a good bit, honestly. I've caught later into the night, but when you're talking about timing, you got to think about the moon as well. It's not just about the sun going down. I don't like fishing when there's a moon in the sky. I know a lot of people have success around full moons. I prefer a new moon, so pretty much no light at all from the moon. And if there is going to be a moon, I don't like it to be in the sky. Like you could sometimes you can actually catch a lot of bass as it's starting to rise over the hillsides that we have around here. So before it reaches over top the trees, kind of like a sunrise, it has like the same effect. It's crazy. Like there'll be a short period of time where you'll start getting bites, and then once that moon fully reaches over and starts shining on the water, it's pretty much over for you.
It's interesting you say that because I did, I don't do a lot of night fishing, and this is going back like 15 years when I was chasing hybrids and stuff. And I was out, and it was like I fished from basically when I got off work at 7 till I don't even know 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I went through the whole sunset thing, and there was a noticeable bite, of course, right when the light was changing, but then it died as soon as the light went out. But as soon as that moon popped up a little bit, man, I don't know if the fish could see or whatever it was. It triggered like a feeding frenzy that lasted for hours. And it was like as soon as that moon, it wasn't, I don't know if it was a full moon, but it was close. And as soon as it got up, it like lit up this area that was by a beach, so it was kind of like a shallow run out. It was very steady run out, and it was crazy. It really turned on. So I found that kind of interesting. Now that wasn't bass, right? That wasn't like largemouth bass, but kind of the opposite of what you just said, which I thought was kind of interesting because it lit stuff up versus like making them feel more comfortable, you know. But you know, hybrids are stupid, so it's
No, you know, fishing. There are no rules to fishing. So, what one person experiences, is not what someone else is going to experience, and your successes aren't going to be my successes. And I think the species plays a part, like you mentioned. I think those largemouth bass. I think and smallmouth too, to some degree. Um, I think, you know, when there's no moonlight, when there's very little light out, or if there's a moon out, I want to have a lot of clouds, or I want to have a little chop on the water. I want something going on to kind of mask me, and that's one of the reasons I fish at night, is to mask my presence, to make up you know, to make up for my mistakes that I have on the water. So if I get some wind, you know, even more darkness, that puts things even more in my favor. And just like in the daylight, the bass seem to be more active usually when it's cloudy, when it's windy, rainy, and it's the same at night. So if it's like that at night, I feel like I'm going to be able to power fish. I'm going to be able to catch the big fish that I'm going to be targeting for that night.
Jason, how about you? Do you feel like there's like a, you know, like a magic hour, magic 2 hours? Is it something that has to go on for a little while?
I think as soon as that sun goes down, pretty much from then on until 30 minutes before sunrise, it's that chance to fish is there. I do like new moons as well because it's darker. Your eyes adapt quick, like more concealed, all that good stuff that goes along with that. I've caught them, as early as 30 minutes after the sun goes down to like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. It just happens. I don't think there's a true magic at that time. It's just pull up to the right spot.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ryan.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened.
Oh, it's all right. It's all good. Ryan, do you feel like there's like a magic hour or a couple hours? Like what?
So I think this is actually pretty cool because like Kyle said, my experience is about the complete opposite of what he said.
It's
if it
just
was
West Virginia.
if it was a full moon, the bite was on fire all night. But there was also, I do have the same kind of like even when I'm fishing with the kids, say 9, 10 o'clock, like the bite just falls off, and then we go home, and I'm like, dang, I know here in about 2 hours they're about to come alive. About 1 o'clock to 3 was about prime time for me.
Because I always wonder about this because I feel like there's these, and I feel like this goes through the daytime too. There's these feeding cycles, like the bite's on, so the majority of the fish go out and feed, and then they're full for a little bit, and they pull out and they sit places, and they just won't react to stuff because they don't need to, And I feel like a couple hours or whatever their time frame is, and then there's another feeding frenzy, and it's just a cycle that goes on during the day and night. So I kind of wonder if like they feed up right when that light transition happens, because we all know like early morning, late, in the afternoon or right when the light's changing, there's always like a little feeding frenzy. And then if it takes them 3-4 hours to recharge, and then that's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're,
Yeah.
which I'm not usually out at 1 o'clock in the morning, but obviously Ryan was there for a while, and you guys are.
Yeah,
And
I still go.
Yeah. Ryan, are they managing the flow of the water there? Is it dammed? How does that work where you're at? Would that have anything to do with the timing?
It does. They do manage it. There's a few. So like where I fish, there's two big reservoirs kind of built on the river. You have Griggs Reservoir, and then down closer to the zoo, it turns it goes like Small River again, and then it goes back into O'Shaughnessy Reservoir, and then there's like there's like probably 7 dams on this river just
Oh.
within.
But are they managing the flow like for power on the Scioto, or is it just for like flooding and stuff?
So I think it's just flooding, but I'm not really sure. Like as far as like the Griggs Reservoir, like Griggs Dam goes.
Yeah, it's a big
I
one.
mean, that's a pretty big dam. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a big one.
So they don't have like a generation schedule or anything like that.
It's
No.
Ohio, bro.
I don't think I've ever been to Ohio.
There's like no warning, man. They'll just open the gates up. They just slam them off. Whatever. They don't really.
Well, the same way with Alabama Power here. They run this state and they don't care if it doesn't matter what the schedule says. They're going to run it whenever they want to. And it's usually whenever you don't want it to be running.
Yeah. Like Tennessee is awesome, man. You get on their app, and I mean, I'm not saying that they don't deviate from it, but
they stay close.
It's pretty close. You can have an idea of like when they're going to be wide open and when they're not going to be wide open. You got an idea.
Yeah, TVA with all the launches, generation schedule app, they're like the standard of how it should be, and Alabama Power is way beneath that.
I guess I've never really like got into it that deep.
Yeah.
I just follow like flows and stuff to make sure I'm not gonna freaking be in Texas in a few hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of times when my buddies would say, "Hey, it's probably not cool," I'm like, be all right, because I know they're gonna be biting good.
So going back to baits, if there's somebody who's just going night fishing, they don't fish much, is there one bait that you would recommend for people to start out with or try at night?
I think everyone's got some sort of chatterbait in their box. I think that's a good bait to start with. If I were to suggest one, I've had a lot of success on a 1/4 ounce mini max because, like Ryan was saying, those bass, even largemouth, will get up stupid shallow, and you can keep it up pretty high in the water column. A lot of the bait fish, a lot of the even bluegill and crappie at night, they tend to suspend like right under the surface. Well, if you ever turn your light on as you're going through these areas, sometimes you can see them like they're just right on the surface. So that 1/4 ounce mini max is a good representation of those smaller crappie, the smaller bluegill that try to hide like on that surface, and you can keep it up real close up to there.
Yeah, you can fish them a lot more ways than you would think. I mean, you can fish it just like a jig. You don't even have to chatter it. They're pretty. I mean, if you get one stuck, you hit something, it's stuck. I mean, you can drag that thing through big rocks. You know what I mean? Rip it through weeds. Whatever you want to do, but black buzzbait would be another good one too. I don't have much luck unless it's like a mini buzz on the rivers, but like ponds or lakes, like them guys fish. I mean, I've fished Allen Creek at night too, like Allen Creek Lake, and I've caught some hammers out of there too at night. But
so how big is that buzzbait you're talking about, Ryan?
Like the mini one or a big one?
The mini one.
It's probably only about an 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. Probably
Okay,
2 inches long.
Oh, wow.
It's tiny.
Yeah. I haven't, like, smallmouth don't typically hit the big ones I've found on the river. They got to be pretty small. I don't know if it's just too much going on, or if they think it's a whole freaking goose swimming across the water or what.
Yeah.
They don't really go after the big one. They might short strike it, but once they get up close, they're like, "Oh no, not that guy."
Yeah.
We found out on another episode that they love goose poop, that they
Nice.
eat goose poop. So I don't know. Sorry.
Is that where the poop bait came from?
That's what he thought. He thought Ned was actually goose poop. Yeah, I can't argue with the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's right or wrong. So, Jason, how about you, man? You probably throw something crazy,
No,
like
I mean, I pretty
like
much.
one of the parrot baits or something.
I think one that got me kind of addicted to nighttime fishing, like when I started saltwater, is an X-Wrap XR8 silver color, because you can suspend it, twitch paw, and as it's twitching, you got a silver flash down there in the water. And when I was down in Florida, like every 40-inch hook I caught, you see 30 came at night and caught 20 bass on that lure. So I think it's tiny little minnow imitation. You get the flash off. I think all predator fish just like that.
Yeah.
Now, Jason, are you fishing that like a jerk bait, or are you like reeling it and pausing it, real pause?
Yeah, I mean it's jerk bait, twitch paw, and like bleed out paws is when that rod gets just thumped and it wakes you up. It's nice.
Yeah, I've been trying to throw the jerk bait this year at night, but I don't have confidence in it yet, so I haven't stuck with it.
Yeah, it'll get the job done. You get in that right area.
I know I grew up gigging for, I mean, I'm from the coast originally, but grew up gigging flounder at night. That's, that's when we would go night fishing. But that's nothing to do with a kayak. It's fun.
So, when you guys are going out night fishing, I'm assuming that you have lights on your kayaks. Do you think that's like, how much are the fish aware of extraneous lights? Like if you're wearing a headlamp or a flashlight or the light on your kayak. I mean, because I've heard all of you guys have talked about being like stealth and they can't see you. But let's say it's clear water and you got a light in the back of your kayak, you got to look like a space alien floating down the river to them.
Yeah, so the larger lakes, the motorized lakes, I try not to go out on a full moon because I don't want a boat running 20 miles an hour around a narrow bend to hit me. So we have to have 360 lights. So I usually have like the Yak Attack light on top of my power pole. So it's freaking like 7 foot up there. It's not too bright, so I don't mind that a whole lot. But if I'm fishing a smaller lake, non-motorized lake, I'll try to keep the light to a minimum. I will wear a headlamp, but I only turn that on if I have treble hook baits and I have them in the net. If it's a real big fish and it feels like they're on there pretty good, I'll turn that light on just to make sure I get them in the net. If I feel like I have the time to reach up there and touch it real quick, but yeah, I'll put my phone basically on silent, and I try not to check my phone at all because then you start throwing off your eyes that way. You want your eyes to adjust to the darkness. So if you're constantly checking your phone, if you get bored at night, get distracted, and you're looking at it, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not spooking the fish with your phone light necessarily. With your headlamp, yeah, maybe, but you're definitely hurting your own night vision. So, I'll put my phone on vibrate sometimes. And if my wife, if I get like 3 messages in a row, I'm like, I better take a moment and check that. But otherwise, like if it's 1 or 2 bumps, I just leave it be for a couple hours and I'll check it later. But yeah, I try not to ever shine my light on the water. I'll cover up. If I need a little bit of light, I'll turn on like the red light and then I'll use my hand to cover it a little bit so I can just see what I'm doing for a second and then turn it off just so I'm not projecting across the water. Like Kurt said, it's not natural. And these fish, they live their entire lives, to survive in these bodies of water. So if they see something unnatural, it's going to throw up some red flags, I feel like. So I try to avoid lights at all costs.
Same here. Complete pitch black darkness.
No lights for you at all, huh, Ryan?
No lights at all. I wear a headlamp as well. And just like Kyle said, once you're out there for an hour or so, everything kind of becomes daylight. As soon as you click your headlamp on, it's over. Like you're starting all back over from scratch.
Yeah.
So when I first get on the water, like I use a coast headlamp that it's got the flood or like spotlight, like you can, rotate the headlamp. When I first get on the water, I'll kind of scope the bank, just kind of get a little, casting, just because I'm on a river,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the banks are close on both sides. So I'll get, a casting judgment. Then good enough to where I can pretty much put it right on the rocks once I know where I need to go. And then after that, I leave the light off and in the same way, unless it's something big, I'll turn it on. But other than that, if you leave it on, like Kyle said, your light's beaming off everything. And not only that, then you got mosquitoes, bats, all that stuff like comes straight to your face, like instantly.
Uh,
So yeah, I'll leave my light off unless I know I got something big on there.
Jason, how about you, man?
Same way, like I have a headlamp, and that's really fishing for fun without the GoPro out there. That's all I have is the headlamp, and it doesn't get turned on unless I have a fish on. That's the only time it gets turned on, or maybe to real quick see how to tie a knot. But I have started to carry the GoPro out more at night. I use a light on it, but the only time I'm using the GoPro is when I'm already around dock lights, like there anyway. So it's kind of like it stays on as I'm approaching stuff. It kind of gets slowly acclimated to it, and I'll still fish with it on. But definitely the whole advantage is still light at all. So if I'm fishing for fun, I don't have that GoPro. I never turn it on unless I.
Now, if y'all ever fish like super dark, new moon, clouds, have you ever noticed you can use your peripheral vision to actually see the targets that you want to cast to? So if you're trying to stare at a bush on the bank, you won't be able to see it. But if you turn your head a little bit, the rods and cones in your eyes can pick up the slight little bit of light on there, and you can kind of see. And sometimes I just kind of make casts just through my peripheral vision that way. But that's another trick people can use at nighttime to find their targets, to figure out where the bank is.
Man, it's funny you bring that up, man. I had that. I read about that in biology in college. It's just how the physics of those rods and cones work. That at night, that if you don't stare directly at where you're trying to look at, you can have a little bit better vision. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, when I fish the river, I typically stay parallel with the banks and then just roll cast into the bank or parallel with the bank.
So you're fishing directly parallel. You're not like casting across the current. You're fishing parallel with the bank at all times.
So no,
Or
not
most
all
of the times.
times. I sit parallel to the bank.
Okay.
That way, when because your vision, if you if you're sitting this way straight at the bank, everything becomes black and it's like a wall.
I got
But
you.
if you turn and you're kind of now all that light's barreling down the river, it kind of lights everything up, just like Kyle was saying.
I don't know. I went out last weekend. I didn't see shit. My rods and cones ain't working right. I'm getting old. Something. I kept it out of the trees though. That was my biggest worry. There's a lot of the lake I went to has a lot of overhanging trees, so yeah, I didn't get hung up, so it's good.
If you come back with all your poles, that's all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I came back with everything.
That's something else I try to avoid too. Is the overhanging bushes. Like I've got some good fish around them before, but if I feel like I can get on a flat somewhere where I don't have to worry about my cast as much, that's I prefer that so much more. I just yeet it out there and bring it back. That's how I prefer to do it.
Yeah. So no different retrieves. All the fishing's the same, right? That's kind of what.
There is one thing I do a little different. If I'm throwing a swim jig, sometimes I mentioned those bluegill and those crappie, even some shad will be right on the surface. Something that I've learned last couple of years is if you kind of float a swim jig, I like taking 3/16 ounce swim jigs and just keeping your rod tip high and keeping them near the surface and just barely reeling them really slowly. You can get a lot of bites that way. They just come up. It's almost like a top water. You're basically waking it. It's super subtle. When if they want anything else, if you're doing like a big wake fade or something, and they're not committing to that, you can definitely throw that swim jig out and get a lot more of those bites.
That's a good tip right there. That's a little juice.
Yeah, I expect you out here on the river here soon.
Oh yeah.
Me and Quentin used to go all the time.
Yeah, have to get him back out. He's been fishing a little bit.
Yeah.
So, is there? Gosh, man, we've covered a lot of stuff already.
And is there any kind of like safety stuff? Like, I don't know, being at night, you don't want to get run over. You want to make sure you have, you tell somebody where you're going, things like that. Or are there any other safety precautions you would take whenever you're night fishing?
Shoot them. No.
It gets hairy in Ohio. You got to be strapped.
It can get sketchy out there, man. Like it.
Dan, you don't realize what you. That's exactly right.
Like some of Columbus, Kurt. Like there's some. We got bums and tents and all kinds of that stuff.
So what's weird around us, and this is probably like anywhere else, there's a certain type of person who's not fishing who's attracted to the ramps for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
And they tend to be there for the wrong reasons. So it's always like at night, in certain areas, it can be kind of weird. In Ohio anyway.
Yeah.
Morgantown, West Virginia can be like that too. There's a lake I try to avoid, but there's some big bass in it, man. I've been there at like 2 a.m. and all of a sudden like a car will just roll up and just sit there for like half an hour. And there's a portage on there and like someone will roll up just for a few minutes, go to the portage on, leave, and then someone will roll up a few minutes later, go into the portage on, leave. I'm like, I think I know what's going on here. But, I keep my piece pretty close to me in those cases.
So that may be something to think about if you're going out at night by yourself, especially if you're by yourself, right? To have some.
It depends on the area. Like there's lakes I don't carry at because I feel safe there, but there's definitely some places that have some red flags that I try to avoid, or if I am going there, I try to be prepared.
Yeah, I fished Fort Worth, Florida a lot, saltwater fishing back when I was down there. And there was times I'd come back from the boat ramp, and the car would just speed right down the ramp and stop right in front of me trying to load up, and it's like, my kid, you need to go. I move out my way type deal because it was a crackhead, obviously. And then one night going back to the ramp, like police car, I get the car back from the water. I think they did it intentionally for insurance, blah blah. I don't know. And one night fishing the spillway, I heard two people arguing. One guy, he was saying, "Say something, say something." And I heard a gunshot. I'm like,
"Oh,
I'm just gonna go. I can fish the spillway tonight."
Damn.
It
wasn't at night, but we have one lake here I won't go to anymore. And that lake, I saw some guys, thugs, like get out of the car, go into the woods and start target practice, start shooting, like just out testing their guns. I don't know, shooting range out in the woods by the lake. But there's been a dead body on that lake found before. It's like in the hood. Great fishing, but yeah, I don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
And safety carry out there, people. It's not the environment; it's just the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's a state park by us, and sometimes I'd finish up fishing if I fished after work, and I would get off at 7, so I'd get off at 11 or 12 off the water, and man, I guess it became like an area for guys who wanted to meet other guys to hang out.
Oh,
But it was after a certain time, because it was really bizarre, because like before that, there's like families running around and there's none of that going on. But after dark, coming off the water, I was just like, God, they'd catcall you. And I'd just be like, oh, God, man.
catcall. So you're like,
it was like groups of them, man,
you're like
running
pedaling
around.
by, and they're like, oh, flex them legs. Boy.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, big fisherman. Big man.
Let's see that rod.
I'd be like, God, just shut up, man. Just let me load up, and I'm gonna be gone here in a minute. Man. It was just it got so out of hand that the news picked up on it and came out, and but it's still going on there. I don't understand why they can't like have a police officer drive down there once a night or something. But it was. Yeah.
Do you live by Brad Hicks?
Yeah, not too far. Brad lives up in Dayton.
I heard him say something about that before.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's like in Ohio. There's just a lot of people who live in Ohio. Like we're a very populated state. So even though when we say rural, it really means a subdivision. It's not like really like uninhabited areas around here. So there's always people doing weird stuff.
Inhabited by ladies.
Hate
That's
it.
the same thing in the Quentin one time. I used to fish the Big Darby or Big Walnut, and he called me one night and was like, "Dude, I found this awesome spot." I'm like, "Yeah, I go down there. I used to fish down there all the time." And he's like, "Man, I was walking through the woods and all these dudes kept coming up to me and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, you're on the wrong side of the bridge, bud." Yeah, you need to stay on the left side of the bridge.
Oh God, man.
There is actually, I take that, but we do have a place I've heard like on the Cahaba River here that there's a certain bridge that people go party under, with the guys.
This spot's bad though. This ain't your high class. This is like your needles and fucking condoms and shit everywhere kind of fucking place. I said, dude, you need to leave.
Y'all aren't like, y'all definitely aren't sponsored by the Ohio Tourism Bureau or anything.
No, definitely not. Unfortunately, man. I wish it was a little bit better. I think there's some communities that are trying to make some stuff better, but it's Ohio. Fishing in Ohio can be a little tough.
Yeah.
So back to some of the safety things that people should keep in mind is if you're a caffeine kind of person, I would suggest, if you're going to do an all-nighter, definitely bring some caffeine. But I leave a lot, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So I try to have a little caffeine, a little coffee or something waiting for me in the truck, just enough to get me back. And then I can go to sleep when I get home. Or even having like a little snack on the water, just, like a little granola bar or something, keep your energy levels up. Because that drive home, that's the most dangerous part, probably, especially if it's any longer than probably 30 minutes. You might tend to want to doze off. Don't ask me how I know that, but I've been fortunate. I also think I wanted to bring up, like, sometimes, like, even with the bite window, and it's a safety thing too, but I fish a lot earlier in the year at night, and when those water temperatures or when the air temperatures start to cool off and the water starts to fog up real heavy, I find that to be another window that the bite shuts down. I don't know if that's like the fish can feel that cooling of that surface water, so they cool off and my shallow bite tends to die. But if you're not careful and you get out there and that air temperature starts to drop and you're fishing all night, it can get like below 50 degrees and all of a sudden you're drenched from all that fog. And you get off the water and you're just shivering. You have no idea why. Because a lot of times it's hard to see that fog, especially on a new moon, if you don't turn on your light. So you can push hypothermia through that with that fog coming in if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's a really good point that I
Yeah.
hadn't thought of. Is like earlier in the year or later in the year, it getting cool at night. That could pose a significant problem for someone.
Yeah, one thing I do, kind of nighttime specific. The time I ever debarred my is at night, just because I pulled more trout out of my hand and fish shape, debarbing hooks, and if you're not like north fishing different areas, rivers and whatnot, like generally I'm wearing an inflatable PFD for about, but if high current situation, and I haven't really fished area a lot, I'm going to stand chest style PFD, and there's about two things that kind of nighttime specific. Yeah,
That's a good point too. A standard PFD. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
and it's got all my info in it too. If I fall out, like people are gonna know who I am, type thing. So.
Yep. For the river thing, like we was talking about knowing your area, it's really important on moving water. The regular PFD is all it takes is one tree branch, and if you're in some pretty good rapids, you're going, get snagged under a tree, or it happens all the time. I know there was one time I had actually got out and walked through some rapids, and I knew it was pretty deep on the right side. I didn't know how deep. Well, it wasn't really just deep. It was completely shallow, and there was about an 8-foot hole. It was probably only, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot in circumference, and we're talking, 100-foot wide, just like a 4-foot hole. Well, I tripped in it, twisted my ankle, barely made it back to the bank. Like, it was pretty bad. You know what I mean? All it would take is for me to get sucked down river, and it's hard telling what could happen in that situation.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll end on that note. Good safety messenger. But we appreciate y'all being on. Want to give you a chance to shout out any sponsors or anybody that just generally makes fishing easier for you. Kyle, we'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one last point is that when you're fishing at night, and it's a safety issue too, is you can tend to have your thoughts, drift off into all kinds of the crazy directions when you're out there on the water, especially when the fish aren't biting. You can start thinking about Bigfoot, or what if aliens come? Like, what am I going to do? And you can totally lose focus. And the thing with night fishing is that at any moment, it could be the fish of a lifetime that comes up and smashes your top water bait or your worm that you're dragging on the bottom. So you have to be ready for every single cast for it to be the biggest fish of your life. And you have to remind yourself, stay focused. And it can get exhausting. But yeah, if you're out there and you're just listening to the whippoorwills or the coyotes, you can definitely get lost in thought. Which is good and relaxing. It's therapy if that's what you enjoy. But if you're really focused on trying to catch that big fish, you definitely need to remind yourself and stay mentally focused that what your task is, and that at any second you could have a fight on your hand. But I want to thank Feel Free Kayaks. Yeah, they're the ones that make life easy for me. I've been in them for, I said, 10 years, and they've always got my back. They help me through all these tournaments, and I feel so comfortable and safe in their kayaks. Fishing at night, fishing at big lakes, and they support me a lot through my tournaments and social media. So I really appreciate them. Plus, my wife. Going fishing at night, it's it can put strain on your relationship because I always try to at least sit down at the table and have dinner with my wife before I go night fishing. And I make sure I tell her what time about that I'm going to be home. But she's definitely supportive. But there's those things. I know in other podcasts you've always talked about how it's difficult to go to tournaments and travel nationally, these things. But even these small trips for people in the day or even at night, you have to consider your family obligations, and that's what should come first in your life. And my friends, they're super nice and they love me fishing. They're super supportive and they're always cheering me on. So it's a lot easier to do these things when you've got so many people behind you, like coworkers and your buddies and your mom and dad. So
Okay, Daddy.
Heck yeah. Ryan, how about you?
Well, just the old lady and the kids. I don't really do the whole, competitive thing anymore. So all them people are long gone, but we still do the fishing thing, man. We'll get out, me and her. I kept two of the rental kayaks I used to rent to the friends, so I kept those, and we still go out, and it's just that's the best thing about it is relaxing. Like Kyle was saying, like you just go out and just everything just literally just disappears. Like it's just you, the water, the moon, all kinds of weird crap making noises. It's a good time.
Guys yelling at you.
Yeah. Man, I've heard some weird stuff. I've seen some weird stuff. I don't even want to admit it, but we seen Bigfoot the other night. I was like, dude, I don't know if it was a bear or what. We don't really have bears like kind of central Ohio, I don't think. But
It's like a really hairy crackhead.
oh man, this thing was making the most god awful sound. She went back to the truck and got her gun. Like it was bad. And then we seen it come out the woods, and it was just a big black something. I was like, "Oh no, we're leaving." Yeah, I'm out of here.
I love it, man. I love it.
Well, there we go.
There we go. Bigfoot in Ohio, man.
Yeah, I like it. Jason, how about you, man?
And I guess the whole tournament fishing and just fishing in general, the big companies, Hobie, Lowrance, the pure fishing brands, Abbey Garcia, Berkeley, and Spiderwire, and like they were talking about the commitment to family, and just one thing about night fishing is it allows you to get out there and do what you enjoy and kind of not take away, not be. So it's an advantage being there in the night for catching the fish and just making sure you're there for your loved ones. 7 in the morning might be a little tired, but you're there and hit that caffeine again and keep going.
That's right. Well, we appreciate y'all being on, and thanks for everybody listening. We'll see y'all again next week.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Kurt.
Thank you.